Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. Today, we are here with Stephanie and Francis from Caustic Casanova. They are an awesome band, awesome people, and they're here to drop some knowledge bombs on us about social media and all sorts of other fun topics. We may even nerd out a little bit on vinyl because you know how much I love vinyl. But first, I just want to say thank you all for joining us today. We're really happy to have you both here.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, and so for those who may not be familiar with you or your work, why don't you just give like a nutshell version of who you are, what you do, all that kind of fun stuff, just to give people a nice little background on who Francis and Stephanie of Caustic Casanova are.
Well, I'll go first. I'm Francis. I'm the bass player and singer of Caustic Casanova, and we're a heavy, weird prog rock metal-ish band from the Washington, D.C. area. That's the capital of America.
You'd be surprised how many people don't know that, even in our own country.
And
oh my God, that's kind of, I mean, I live in the US too, so I'm not Canadian like Curtis, but yeah, so I get it.
We have encountered people like on tour, like, and I mean this more than once or twice, that don't know where Washington, D.C. is or what it represents.
or think that it's in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yes.
You know the capital of Canada. Just I'm going to put you guys all on the spot. Let's see if you guys.
Ottawa.
Okay, fine. Do you know where it's located?
In Ontario, of course.
Good. Okay, just making sure. Just checking. Yes. I'm reversing it. Just want to see. Okay, fine.
Do you ask all of your guests this?
Do people not know that?
Well, yeah. He likes to geography quiz people about Canada. This is like the second podcast you've done, Curtis.
Well,
you should quiz us.
You should quiz us. We spend time like trying to learn all of the problems.
I don't want to go too far, but we should be quizzed later. When we have time at the end, bonus geography quiz at the end.
All right. Since Fran said it, he can be the one being quizzed.
Yeah. I want to take a Curtis-led geography Canada quiz.
You're going to get it. Okay. But anyways, continue.
Anyway, yes, the introduction. So yeah, Fran is the bass player, singer. I also do some singing and I play drums, and we formed in 2005. So we've been a band for a very long time. We really started touring and touring regularly and for multiple months out of the year in 2013. So I'd say for the last 8 years, we've been like a quote unquote real band.
Real.
Right. Yes. Air quotes. This isn't going to be video, right? It's just going to be audio.
No, we're on video.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We're doing cool. Video. We're doing
awesome.
Video.
I have some kombucha here.
Nice.
Hey, what kind?
It's this new brand called Lenny Boy. I've never had it. I just discovered it like a week ago, but it's strawberry limeade Lenny Boy kombucha.
Oh, that looks awesome. Sorry, I love kombucha, so
I love it.
I'm easily distracted by beverages. So
yes, I love kombucha. Usually my go-to is GT's Synergy Gingerade. That's my favorite.
Trilogy. I love Trilogy.
Oh yeah, that one's good too. I've had them all.
Compelling kombucha content.
Yes. We are a kombucha themed band.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah. We can be. There's still time.
So moving right along from kombucha. I don't know how you say it. Kombucha? Is it kombucha?
However you want. Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
Moving on from kombucha. So let's get into the meat thing. We're going to talk about Instagram, which Steph has talked to me probably about, 100 times now. But
that's a few times.
Yeah, just a couple times. So can you kind of go over like what we discussed, I think it was like 2 months ago, on what you do to get followers and what you were doing that was getting you followers, if you're still doing it?
Yeah, like we talked about so much. When we talk, I always think that we talk for like 10 minutes and then you're like, all right, it's been an hour,
Yep.
So I don't know if I'll remember everything that we talked about, but like definitely one of the things we talked about was leaving comments on responding basically to every comment that you get, and really trying to create a connection with people that way. So we definitely do that. Like, and I don't know when we started doing that, but that has really led to a lot, you know, like just having a conversation with people, you know, leads to like long-term fan growth, I've found, and like a connection with people. And then another thing that we do is we'll just search through hashtags, you know, like hashtags that are relevant to our band, and just kind of like just go through those and look at posts that we could make a comment on and just comment on those. And it, you know, it's not like leaving an emoji, like a fire emoji. It's, you know, like a meaningful comment, you know.
What is that stuff? What does a meaningful comment mean other than a fire emoji?
Like, you know, if somebody on the progressive rock hashtag posts a picture of a Rush album, like, don't just fire emoji that. You know, if you like that Rush album, say, you know, like, this is my favorite song on this album, or like, you know, I first heard this album in 1987, like it connected with me in this way. You know, it doesn't have to be a long comment, but, you know, like couple sentences or something. And then a lot of times they'll engage back with you, and, you know, half of the time they will follow you. Cool. And so that's just like, and that's super important to build a following based on people that might actually be interested in your band, and not just like, I liked your post, like me back. I don't know what your band is, you know, like that's a way of making sure that it's like a relevant quality.
Yeah, that makes it not like a hollow thing. It makes it like a real person that might be like, well, you know what, I checked it out, and then I sent you a message and I emailed you, and then I literally, that person bought something the next day or whatever. Like that can be a sale for, you know.
I agree. I'm leaving a fire emoji with heart eyes on Francis's recent picture just to be a dick right now.
That's a negative sale, Curtis. I'm gonna.
I did that just to be a dick while you guys were talking. What else? Okay, so can you kind of go over, like, okay, so leaving quality comments. So can you kind of go over some of the hashtags that you comment on other than like prog? Because you guys got so many fucking sounds and things. So I don't know how you do it, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, like on most of our posts, like, and I'll just leave this little aside, you know, I see some people like, or like you hear some people in your podcasts and stuff say like, are hashtags even relevant anymore? Like, I think that on Instagram, yes, absolutely. So yeah, like you said, you know, we're a varied band with many different sounds, and that actually works to our advantage on Instagram because we can use a lot of different like hashtags. Some of the ones that we use are, you know, noise rock, stoner metal, doom metal, psych rock, psych metal.
I think whatever band you are, you just need to look at which ones get the most engagement, you know. I've looked at like, you know, certain ones, you know, doom metal versus doom, or, you know, it's like there are certain ones that are like, you know, punk, you know, punk versus punk rock. Like punk rock is music, punk hashtag is a lot of like fashion, you know, like you just got to look at what people are actually using those things for, and like really scrutinize them when you're going hunting for people to find fans, basically.
Yeah. And like a lot of people do, because, you know, we have experience doing this too. A lot of people do just kind of look at hashtags and discover things that way. Like, and a hashtag that I think, or a grouping of hashtags that I think is particularly useful is the vinyl community hashtags. All of those, like, you know, my vinyl collection, vinyl freaks, vinyl nerds, like vinyl records, like all of those. We get a lot of like new fans when we post vinyl posts and use those hashtags. There's something about the vinyl community. They just love like sharing their, you know, I know that you guys know about this. Like they just love sharing their collection and talking about it and using hashtags. And we've made a lot of new fans that way.
So, okay, before we move on to the next thing, so what would you say would be the best way to get engagement on Instagram other than responding to hashtags? I'm going to leave another fire emoji just to be a jerk again while you're talking.
Please leave as many as you want. You can even leave 2 or 3 on one post if you want.
Might guys up in the algorithm too, which would be fucking hilarious.
We'll respond with more fire emojis and one word.
Nice. Probably a swear word.
DMS for a collab.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. DM me for a collab. I'll do that while you guys are talking. Go
ahead. So yes, your question. What else? Just posting good content that's relevant to, you know, your band, if you're a band, or your brand, you know, like quality photos. We used to kind of, I don't know, we have like a reputation as being like a very DIY style band. And that's a good thing. And I feel like sometimes it can be used like negatively in a way. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Okay. Like posting good quality photos, like making sure your pictures aren't like blurry pictures of food with a description about your favorite band, you know, like a really cool action shot from you at a show, like making sure most of your posts are like that kind of thing, like something that your audience would find engaging and would want to comment on.
Yep. Okay, so actually I'm gonna let Corey take over for the next question because I was blabbing because her Wi-Fi was acting up.
Yeah, but my Wi-Fi I think is okay now. Hopefully we'll see. But no, so shifting over from Instagram though, I wanted to discuss selling with you guys. And I know you guys had a sale a couple of months ago. It went really well. And I wanted to know if you had any tips and tricks and things like that other bands might be able to employ, or things that you think people should learn from what you guys did for that sale.
The first thing that comes to mind is not being afraid to ask people to buy your stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
like,
definitely people struggle with that.
Yeah. And I mean, like we did for a long time.
We still do.
And we still do, because like it doesn't see, like we're not like salespeople naturally. Like it doesn't come naturally to us. Like I always feel weird when I make a post about buying something, you know, if that's like the obvious ask. But like in order to sell, you have to obviously have cool merch and like be really into what you're selling, and, you know, like have a positive mindset and attitude and like presentation about it.
Yep.
But you have to just ask people to buy it and mention why, you know, like.
I think that a lot of the psychology of selling is counterintuitive, and it's counterintuitive, especially to people like Steph and I that aren't necessarily natural salespeople. But if you are posting about the same thing over and over and over again, like you're not spamming people, you know, they don't care. Like I think that's like one of the most important things that a lot of people don't realize is the extent to which like people don't really care about your band. It's not a priority for them. And the more that you can get that through your skull and realize nobody can, you know, if you're going to actually have a good fan base or like even dare to dream about making a living doing it or something, like most of the people that are going to care about your band are going to care about it very tangentially as casual fans. So you're not spamming them to ask them to buy your release 8 times in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're not even going to see it probably once.
Yep.
The odds are, depending on how many fans you have. So you just have to get over that. And it's still something that we struggle with, honestly, because again, it's counterintuitive, because when you are in your band, you live it so much. It feels like it's the totality of you and it consumes you, but you have to just see that other people don't see it that way. Literally on his social media, they are not seeing it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree on that. Corey, you want to follow that up before I go ahead, or no?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that a lot of bands struggle with, is they don't want to seem spammy, or that like they're begging or something like that by continually posting about the same thing over and over and over again. And I mean, do you have any tips for people to just kind of like break down past that, or is it just do it is the tip?
Yeah, I mean, like we'll do different promotions and stuff with like featuring different merch and, you know, and so that's a way to kind of like keep it fresh. Yeah. So, I mean, like, we're not like pushing the same thing on people for like a month every day.
Yeah. But I mean, for people that are listening that are, you know, that are like in bands that are trying to, like, you can learn from our failure, like learn from our failures. We are still figuring this out. And we had, in the past year, we had months where we made like a lot of money and a lot of sales. And then we've had times where we take our foot off the gas and make almost no sales in a month, like just from, and it's just from, a lot of it comes from, oh, we were really busy in our personal lives for 2 or 3 weeks, and some of this stuff just seems like overwhelming, and you just, if you take a little break from it, which maybe can be healthy, but for people that are trying to get out there and really, really do it and obsessively do it, you just got to go constantly. It's a struggle for us. We still don't do it. Like we're not constantly on, getting up in the morning and thinking about selling for Costa Casanova and then thinking about it before we go to bed. Like when we are in that mode, we can do really well. And when we're not, it turns the spigot off pretty fast.
So, but that's proof that it does actually work when you do it and when you commit to it. And like, some people listening might be like, well, what does commit to it mean? Spending 2 hours a day.
Yeah. Maybe an hour when you get up and an hour before you go to bed on it.
Yeah. Like promoting it on all the different platforms, making stories, making Instagram posts, Twitter posts, Facebook posts, and then just like leaving comments and stuff, so that, but 2 hours a day, like that's
and most people don't have don't have it in them to do that, I would say. So if you're listening and you're probably one of the 1%, if you think you can actually do that, you're 1 in 100 people that can actually do it. We can't consistently even commit to that. So
I could do it. I could do it.
Yeah, you
do. You're like a superhuman though, Curtis. So
I am the Energizer Bunny. What was I going to say? I don't even know if it's even necessary for 2 hours a day necessarily. Probably more like 1.
Probably, if you're efficient.
Efficient.
I'm consistently inefficient.
So, a lot of times you're like, all right, I'm going to leave this many comments, or like, I'm going to make this post and then tag all these people, which is way easier on Instagram than on Facebook, because for some reason, like tagging people on Facebook and bands and businesses, it's so hard because sometimes it doesn't work. Like, and it just, I don't know, it's endlessly frustrating, but, you just have to do it. A lot of times I said 2 hours because a lot of times you'll just like see a post that you like and you'll just start browsing, you know what I mean? So like you have to like stay focused.
Totally. Corey, you got a follow-up?
No, I mean, I'm good. I think that honestly, the consistency is the thing that a lot of people really struggle with. Like they'll go hard for a week where they're spending hours upon hours on social media, and then they'll get burned out, and then they'll stop, and then they'll do it again. And it's just like, it's a cycle rather than pacing themselves and doing, okay, I'm going to do an hour a day, and then just kind of, building from there. And I mean, I always like to say it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yep. So really pacing yourself and being consistent is key at, comes to success.
I agree.
Otherwise, we're going to burn
out. I have a follow-up question on sales before we go into Corey's vinyl rant with you guys, since I'm not a vinyl collector.
That is the highlight of the conversation.
Well, before we get to the highlight,
it's not a rant.
Before we get to the highlight of the conversation, I do want to ask one more question on selling, which is this is about, you guys have an email list still, right? You guys are still doing the email list?
Yep.
I think I got one not that long ago. So who does the copy and how do you kind of come up with the copy? I'm assuming Francis does because he's the freelance writer, but
friend does.
How do I come up with the copy? I just do it though I've found, so I mean, I'm not sure this is what you're asking, but I mean, I found that certain things get a lot more, higher opens and click throughs.
Right. Cause you can track that.
And a lot of the, basically the one thing I've learned in the last 6 months or so is whatever the lamest like subject line is gets the most engagement. by far.
Like,
So I
it's an example.
So I copy,
Well, yeah.
I copy like a few. I try to be subscribed to as few things as possible, but I copy a few things that like email lists that I'm subscribed to that seem to be people that are professionally doing it, for, and stuff like can you believe what happened or whatever? And I feel like an idiot even writing it when I'm like and sending out stuff like that, but that's what works. Like if you write our new album drops tomorrow, 5% of people open it. If you write, can you believe this as your subject line, it's like 25% of the people open it. And I don't know what the psychology of all of the, can you believe what Stephanie said or what, whatever subject lines, but it worked, I would just say to people, copy, if you're subscribed to like email lists that seem to get you opening the emails, copy what they do for your subject lines and you'll reach a lot more people.
But then actually have something meaningful to say in the body
right,
of the email.
In the body of the email, I try to write it, which I probably honestly picked up from something that I probably from someone that is in your guys' universe, like one of those groups or something. Like write it like it's to one single person. I can't remember where I read that, but I changed to I started to try to do that more. Like you're writing to one particular fan, one generic Costa Casanova fan, but a specific person to reach that person to get, to inform them and, be their buddy and be their, feel like you have a connection with them. Hopefully that works.
One of the things we've been employing in the emails is asking a question at the end to sort of like encourage people to write back. Because a lot of times, like I'm on email lists and not necessarily just bands, like companies and businesses and whatnot. Like a lot of times it's just, you wouldn't naturally think to like write back, it's just like, oh, they're telling me something. That's cool.
Yeah.
But if you have a question, you don't think that it's appropriate to write back or like they won't see it or like it's one of those no reply emails or whatever. But like, so if you ask something like, what kind of merch would you like to see? Or like, where would you like to see us play or something like that? Like people will respond because like ever since we've been asking questions, fans will respond. And then you can kind of like start a dialogue with them and like, create a connection essentially. So
agreed. Corey, were you going to say something? I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I was just going to touch on the psychology behind the different subject lines. So I do marketing in my day job. It's like my bread and butter is, email marketing and digital marketing. And it's the difference between telling them what's in the email and making them want to know what's in the email. So our new album drops tomorrow. Okay, so they know what's in the email.
So they know.
Yeah. Or can you believe this? Okay,
right.
What's going on? That's going to be the psychology behind getting them to open it.
Yeah. I never ever would have thought of it that way, but that you put it so beautifully, so simply.
Well,
it's that whole FOMO thing from like cryptocurrency. They're like, okay, if I don't open this, I'm going to miss something important. So rather than just flat out telling you.
And I think that for me, it's like, I feel like on some level, I know that, but it's like one of those things where I feel like, well, I would never fall for that. So and all of our fans are smart people like me. So they would never fall for that. They want to know that the album drops tomorrow. That's, and I think that that's part of a lot of things that are about the internet that are counterintuitive about the human brain and and stuff that's like, no, like go with what's tried and true. What you said is correct. Just because I think of myself as someone that would never fall for that, even though I'm sure I'm falling for it every day,
We all are, even if we think we don't.
Exactly.
We do. Yeah. We totally do.
So just out of curiosity, Francis, what was the open rate for yesterday's email? I just saw it and it said, "Did you miss us?" Do you know?
See, I feel embarrassed, like just you saying that because, and that's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, you got to get over that. Like, I'm still embarrassed about the fact that I wrote that, but I know that that's going to have a great open rate.
You haven't checked?
I haven't checked. I wrote it last night, right before we headed out for our going to the first show that we've been to in a year.
Yeah. Here's a question I have for you, Fran.
Oh.
Like, what is a bad open rate for your kind of emails, and what's a good one?
That's a good question. Thank you, Stephanie. You should be interviewing me.
For our list, a
Yeah.
bad one is, I mean, I have no idea. I have nothing to compare this to. A bad one is under 10%, and an amazing one is 30%.
30%.
Right?
That's pretty good.
Or is that
That's
right? From
standard for like retail type emails, which are, anything where you're kind of selling to people, or, merch type emails. I think industry standard for open rate is about 11%, is kind of the average.
Wow.
For the retail industry. But anything above, I would say 25%, you're killing it.
Wow.
If your list is particularly active, obviously that's going to be different. But like, yeah, a 30% open rate is phenomenal.
Okay, so
that's about as high as we get, but yeah.
30?
That's amazing.
Wow. Corey, anything else we want to ask about selling before you guys talk about vinyl? You get to lead the vinyl questions.
No, I mean, there really are no vinyl questions other than like, what is your current favorite vinyl that you're listening to right now?
Ooh.
Let's see.
We listened to a lot of like varying stuff. I mean, our collection spans from country to
yeah, I mean,
the Indian noise rock to
yeah, I mean, I just got a bunch of country albums that I really like. Some weird show from the 1950s that someone recorded off the television from Compton, California, a country barn dance of like all these like quasi famous, like it's called like, I can't even remember what the album is called, but that's probably the thing that I've been the most into lately, this crazy like old country barn dance record.
we found a weird like country, like weird country vinyl kick. So we went to the Moog Museum in Asheville, North Carolina, and
that's a good answer.
And yeah, and they had this like weird Moog country record on vinyl. It was like one of the only two things they had, and we were like, well, we don't even know what this is, but we have to get it. And so it's just country music played on a Moog that was made
long time ago
in this
really bizarre, like one of the weird
60s or something.
It's like all really fake sounding synthesizers playing country music,
but it's like recognizable as like a twangy like country album. It's so weird and cool. We love it.
That is awesome.
Moog Country, find it, listeners, go find this. It's one of the weirdest records in the world.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice.
Sorry, Corey, what were you saying?
No, you're totally fine. I was just going to say, what do you think is honestly the driving force behind like this vinyl resurgence in our generation in particular? Because we didn't really grow up with it. It wasn't really a thing for us, but it's super, super popular with us now. Do you think it's like, for me personally, I'll just say what it is for me, is that like CDs are super boring and they're like, but a vinyl, it's like a piece of art that you can play and that you can enjoy in a physical sense beyond just looking at it. But I want to hear your thoughts on what is like a driving force behind the vinyl resurgence in a generation that didn't grow up with it. So it's not a nostalgia factor.
I mean, I think that it's exactly what you said, that it's a piece of art. It's something that you can hold, that's big. The records themselves can be really interesting to look at. I mean, when you get down to this, people say it's tangible or whatever, but a record particularly, I mean, the music is actually on that thing. Like, it's literally, if you put your ear to the needle without a stereo, it's actually playing.
Like, you can hear it.
Like the needle hitting the groove is actually the music at an extremely low volume that needs to be amplified, but it's at the needle hitting that is the music. It's the sound wave. And it's pretty, I mean, it's just, I think there's something about that format that is just it's just so immediate. And like you said, the art and the when you're getting into collecting, what's the most collectible thing is the thing that has it's the most art and is the most collectible, and vinyl is just the most collectible. So I think it's going to always appeal to collectors, and collecting, it doesn't have a generational line,
Right. But I do think that now it's like much more visible with social media, especially Instagram. Like, and collectors love to show off their collections, so what better way to do that than take pictures of it and share it with other people that are into it with a, my vinyl collection hashtag or something on Instagram. Like, and so I think that for our generation specifically, social media has really amplified that. And that sort of helps to like, generate more interest in a way of speaking. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
I assume you're a collector, Corey.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I have some behind me right now. And I swap these out as I do things, because I kind of rotate them. These are just the ones I'm listening to right now. This one is
Clouds tastes
great band.
Yeah. They're good.
Great band, great album, and it's an absolutely beautiful splatter vinyl. I mean, I have the joke that I'll never retire, but I will have all of them sweet splatter vinyls.
Yeah.
Yep. It'll be like an episode of Hoarders where they just find me buried under all of my splatter. That's how I'm gonna go out, and I'm totally okay with that. But no,
that's an episode I hope I never watch, but it would be interesting.
But no, I think I definitely agree that being able to physically hold the music in your hands, because you're not holding a CD, or you can't hold an MP3, but you're physically holding an actual physical piece of music. That's like, there's something very special about that. And I love how there's no in between. You either are a vinyl collector, or you're just like, you don't really get it. There is no casualness really about it. You're either in it or you're not. And once you get in it, there's no escape. You'll always be gathering vinyl.
You'll always want more. Yeah. He was just talking about getting like a new cube. He found this company that makes like individual cubes. And I don't know, we're constantly having to buy new cubes, like having new cubes shipped to us.
What is your like most prized vinyl that you have?
Good question.
Ooh.
Man.
So I would guess, while you're thinking of it, like one of the rare like Melvins reissues or something, or like.
Well, I mean, we were on a vinyl podcast not that long ago, and someone asked me a similar question. I mean, it was my most prized. It was one that, so there was the Melvins reissued Hostile Ambient Takeover, which is an album that came out in 2002, which was not super critically acclaimed or whatever. It's insanely important album to me. And, I never thought that would get reissued, and it came out like a month ago, and I have both the pink and the yellow versions of it, and it came with like a book with an essay and all this cool extra art. I don't know if that's my most prized one. It's my most prized one that I've gotten in the last few years, just because I never thought that I would have that record on vinyl, and it's like, we're talking about collecting and being a vinyl nerd. Like, I like to get it out and look at it and be like, this is so great, and, so, I mean, that's the one that's coming to mind most. That's the most recent purchase is the new Ipecac reissue of Hostile Ambient Takeover. Though I'm sure I have one that's like a rare one or some really interesting. I have like a Japanese version of one of the King Crimson 80s albums that's really interesting. I have a Japanese version of Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath that's really interesting.
Nice.
What was your, okay, I have just one more question and then we can stop ranting about vinyl because I know Curtis is probably bored.
I don't.
What was your first vinyl that you bought with your own money?
With my own money, I would say is Black Sabbath Volume 4 was yeah, I don't know. It's just it's not interesting. It's like a lame, Warner Brothers reissue of it, but I think that was the first one. And my first record that I had wasn't with my own money was Fragile by Yes, that someone who was really into collecting
Good one.
vinyl gave to me just because he had so much of them. And it's someone that was, really into collecting vinyl as a child in the 90s when you were talking about, our generation that didn't grow up with it. I have a friend who's younger than me who was just interested in collecting the stuff for 50 cents out of like garage sales and stuff when he was 12. And has a massive collection from just having collected all of it with his, mowing the lawn money when he, in the late 90s, when people were giving the stuff away.
Yeah.
So if we're done vinyl, I got the final question. Are we done vinyl, Corey?
I'm done with vinyl unless anybody has any questions for me about my vinyl.
Yes. We would love to ask you a question.
Like,
what is your first record that you ever bought with your own money, and what is your most prized possession that you've purchased in the last year?
So my very first vinyl, and this is going to be hilarious, is If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears by the Mamas and the Papas. And it was actually a really funny thing because I was it was a like vintage vinyl shop that used to exist in a town that's about an hour away from me. And there I was in my Hot Topic finest with my ass-length black hair buying freaking the Mamas and the Papas because I love California Dreamin', and it was just hilarious.
It's a great song.
Yeah. And so that was my first vinyl. My most prized possession, I actually about a month ago just randomly bought a bunch of 7-inches off of eBay, just like a pack of random, no longer existent punk bands vinyl. And there's one, it's they're called Infested. And like the cover is just a bunch of termite larvae. And it's actually pretty freaking awesome. I love it. And the fact that it's just so random. And I mean, that whole pack was pretty awesome because just stuff I'd never heard of. And I think I got it for like $10 or whatever. Yeah. And
how did you come across buying something like that? Just like a random pack of punk 7-inches?
On eBay. I just went vinyl lot and just bought the one that looked the most interesting.
Okay, cool.
That's cool.
To just buy things because I like the cover or like something like that. Like this one, I actually literally had never heard of them, but I'm like, I like this artwork. I'm going to buy this. Didn't even listen to it. Just bought it.
Well, that's the other thing about vinyl. That's literally, that is sort of like incontrovertibly different from CDs or cassettes, is that you will flip through something and it's just because it's big, you might buy something because of the art. And, I have bought CDs in my life just because of the art, but, most of my purchases that have ever been based on just the art are all vinyl, just because you can see something and be like, wow, that is so cool. How could this not sound awesome?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it better sound awesome.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I've purchased off Bandcamp that it's like I was on the homepage and I sort by like new releases and just kind of scroll through and buy the ones that I think look neat. That's how I ended up with the new Haunt album, and because I was like, oh, this is pretty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something that you're going to look at, forever too. So
it's something for bands to think about. Make sure your art is good. There are people out there buying it without even listening to you.
Oh yeah. And for the vinyl collectors out there, if you're a band, making a record too, like make sure that you can read like what your album is and what your band is, when it's like in a collection. So
on the spine.
So make sure that it's something that's like, I know what this is when I pull it out, otherwise people are just going to pass over it. And that's only something that we've put out a few records on vinyl, but that's only something that I've learned from our collection, being like, some of them you'd be surprised how many in our collection are just like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to pull it out, you know?
That's awesome.
So make sure that it's visible and obvious what your band is.
Cool. So we got a final question for you guys. So we're going to talk a little bit about DIY PR, because you guys do a little bit of DIY PR yourselves sometimes. Can you go over any type of tips for people who are on a budget, can't hire someone for PR, or just doing it on your own? Because you guys are always doing your own type of stuff, even though you have Magnetic Eye. You know what I mean, right? So
yeah. This is sort of more like a long game tip, but definitely like keep a document, you know, or a list of anyone that you've ever contacted, and you know, just their name, their email address, their, you know, their site, their blog, or, you know, magazine, whatever it is, and just compile that list. And then even if you don't necessarily have something to like reach out to them for, like a reason to, like, make sure that you're interacting with them on social media if they have like a Twitter or an Instagram or a Facebook. Because if it, you know, like from their perspective, if they feel like they kind of know who you are, and like you interact with them and you guys talk about music or whatever, like they're going to be more likely to cover you, I think.
Yep.
And I mean, you can, you know, maybe speak to that more, but so just like building that relationship with the people that have covered you in the past and stuff, and keeping that relationship going, I think is super important.
It's not something that we actually probably do, but a little bit. We could do it a million times better.
We could do it way better than we do, but it's like something that I know and that has worked in the past.
I got a dumb random question before we end off on the PR end of things. How come Francis has never used his own connections, like with writing or something, to get like more ins? I like, you know what I mean? I would just be like, ugh.
The answer to that is complicated, and we'll just pass on that.
Tried to the spot on that one. But in all seriousness, my actual final question wasn't that. It was actually, so what would you guys say would be a tip you could give to someone who is looking to get reviewed or interviewed or something on their own without a PR?
I mean, just any review. Is that what you're asking? Like someone that just wants to get like, I mean, to me, it's just here. I mean, this would be a simple thing. I would just get your favorite 10 things that came out in the last year, and hit, you know, go look at Google, use Google or whatever your preferred search engine is, and find, you know, 100 different sites that reviewed. You can probably compile it fairly quickly in a day's work of finding 100 sites from or maybe not 150 to 100 sites and blogs from your favorite 10 releases of the last year that are in your genre and that are not, you know, super mainstream, that are appropriate for you. And then just email those blogs. And if you have enough of them, you will get reviews. Like, you won't strike out and have a 0 conversion rate. Like, if you write a good email pitching yourself.
Yeah. That's just one thing that I'll add. I know we're probably like running short on time, but like, I years ago made the mistake of like, I was trying to pitch. We do these like Pantheon 7 inches that are like, they are our B-sides, but like, you don't ever want to say that as a pitch. Like, I made the mistake of like trying to pitch something that we had, like trying to get, you know, bloggers and stuff to cover our Pantheon series and calling it like a B-side. But you don't ever want to say that, because that will make them think, oh, it's like, it's not as good as their like other material. Like, why would I want to cover this? So don't ever, I mean, maybe people are like, yeah, duh, you know, but like, don't ever make that mistake. Because I went back a couple of years later, and I, you know, sometimes I like reread emails and stuff that I sent out, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what was I thinking? Why someone? And guess what? We didn't get much coverage on that.
I made a mistake. I can fully vouch for what you were saying.
So the point is, you have to make people like, why do they want to cover this? Like, why is this relevant? Why is this interesting? You know, have a good angle.
Do it. This is all our shit. Just please review it. Wasn't good enough. Okay. Any final questions, Corey, before we wrap up?
No, I think that is a good amount of information for people to consider and a nice random tangent on vinyl.
I agree.
But
Yes.
some knowledge bits in there on what you should do with your vinyl to make it intriguing for people. So even that had value. Even the vinyl rant had
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
I thought it had a lot of value. Yeah.
All right.
And it was fun.
It was.
Cool. Everybody done?
I'm good.
Everybody done?
Curtis, you want to drop a geography quiz, a Canadian
Oh,
geography quiz?
All right.
Okay.
He
last
wants to be quizzed.
Absolutely last question. Absolutely last question. Where is Kamloops located?
British Columbia.
Oh, you knew that. That's pretty damn good. Do you have it up? Did you Google that? Well, like super quick.
No.
No, hands free.
Nope.
That was pretty okay. Next question. I'll do another place where I know. Where is Calgary located?
Alberta.
Come on.
Okay, fine.
Let's go a little harder.
Okay, last one. Where's Dawson City located?
None of them.
No, I have no idea. I'm just gonna guess Saskatchewan. I don't know.
Yukon.
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 Oh, I was kind of close though.
Yeah, you were kind of close, but yeah, no. Brad, that was pretty good with the Kamloops one. I was kind of surprised about that. That's pretty good. Not a major city.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, I'm wrapping up. Party on, Corey.
Party.
All right.